Well, hi everyone. Welcome to Shogonet Gaming News. Today, in a new video interview opportunity, we'll address the European online gaming market with one of the leading providers for that industry, which is Habanero Systems. Today, we're joined by its head of business development for Europe, Arcangelo Lonoce. So, welcome, Arcangelo. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Sure. Well, so the first question will have two parts. I mean, since the European countries started to put some measures to fight the pandemic, including land-based casinos closing everywhere and sporting events being shut down too. So, which changes and patterns or trends have you seen in your business activities? Have you seen increased demand from operators for online mobile content? And then what happened when some jurisdictions, such as the UK, started to allow restricted reopenings for land-based casinos and sportsbooks started to offer traditional sports again, major leagues again?
Yes, we haven't seen dramatic changes effectively through the lockdown period and after the lockdown period. What we have definitely seen is a slight change in player behavior. Let's start with unique players, for example. We haven't really seen a big increase in terms of unique players. As a relatively young company, we're going through a very sustained expansion moment, which inevitably means that we're switching on new clients pretty much on a weekly basis. So the increase in terms of unique player numbers is something that we are accustomed to and we have been accustomed to for quite some time. The increase that we've seen over the period of the lockdown period, I don't think was due to the events that the world was going through. So in terms of unique players, we haven't really seen much of a difference. What we definitely have seen is a change in player behavior, whereas we've seen player betting slightly more in terms of bet numbers, but slightly less in terms of bet values. So when looking at the KPIs in March and April and May, what we have seen is a remarkable increase in bets numbers, but an equally remarkable decrease in terms of bet value and average bet per player. This suggests effectively that players have been playing more because they have been forced into idleness effectively, but at the same time they don't so responsibly. So that's really what we have seen during the phases that you described. I don't really believe that as an RNG supplier we would have been exposed to big changes anyway, because of course the major changes, the major events concerned, yes, retail and land-based sportsbook and casino, but at the same time the cancellation of sports events. So I believe that the cancellation of sports events has probably actually definitely meant an increase in terms of the popularity of some other verticals, such as, for example, esports and virtual sports, specifically skill games and poker. These are all assumptions that effectively are backed by numbers that have been published in some regulated jurisdictions over the past few weeks. But yeah, as an RNG game supplier, and an RNG game supplier that doesn't necessarily have much of a legacy in the land-based and retail world, because we are not active in the retail and land-based world and we do not have any bona fide title in those environments, we haven't really been affected very much.
I see. Well, you have entered some many jurisdictions in the past months. By the end of 2019, you entered Portugal, and then this year Romania, Spain, Germany. You have also announced new partnerships in Italy and Croatia. So, which further insights could you share with us about these particular markets in terms of, I don't know, performance, feedback, demographics, player and operators, new demands there? And what about your work with more global operators? I'm thinking Marathon Bet and Group Gaming, which you announced recently. which difference and comparisons could you make within these segments and markets?
Yeah, I think that's a seriously mixed bag that you had there for me. Yes, absolutely. Of course, each one of these markets that you mentioned will vary from the other quite importantly, and also our circumstances in each one of these markets are fairly different one from the other. So, of the markets that you mentioned, Spain is certainly the one that we very much focused on at the moment, because we're not live yet in that, but we do have a number. We're fully certified, as you might have reported. Actually, we did report back a few months ago, and we have a number of signed deals, and we have a few integrations on the go. So I'm not completely sure when we're going to be able to go live in Spain. I would expect 2020 to be the year. But we are ready to effectively penetrate the market in earnest. So we don't really have a direct experience of Spain. We're very excited about the market because, of course, it is not just a relatively young, dynamic, and growing market, but also looking at the penetration of the online element into the overall casino numbers in the country. I would believe that, COVID or not COVID, the country is destined to shift towards online and digital. The latest that I've read was that the penetration of the online segment in the casino industry in Spain is around 11%. Which makes me believe that with demographical changes and with the unfortunate developments of this pandemic, there will be a remarkable shift towards the online segment in Spain. As far as the other countries that you mentioned, Italy is of course a completely different example for us. Italy was the first market that we targeted in regulated environments in Europe. So we are now quite advanced in the country. We went live in 2017, which means that since then we have now partnered with about 20 different operators. Which means that in a way we're beginning to be established in the country, just in a way, because of course we're launching many of these 20 operators and signing some more. But there are a few entities that we've been live with for quite some time, and our name and our brand is quite well known and recognized in Italy now at the moment. Italy, again, is the second biggest online regulated market in Europe at the moment, and it's a market that I believed before I even entered it with Habanero to be extremely promising, because for a series of reasons. Of course, once again, the online penetration is very, very low, and the land-based and retail tradition in Italy is very, very strong, which means that inevitably, again, way before COVID, what you see in the future is a shift towards the online segment, and that of course opens up quite a bit of opportunities. Then, the moment we started working in Italy, what I found that Italian players are extremely curious, as well as being very, very knowledgeable when it comes to the casino product, and of course the same goes for the casino management in general, with all the operators that I've had the pleasure to deal with. Casino management is quite averagely quite young, very dynamic, very curious, and very hungry for new games, new solutions, new possibilities, new ideas. The other thing that I was really impressed with Italy is the fact that a lot of the competition is very healthy and is generally product-based more than marketing-based. In my humble opinion, this has helped the market grow even after the advertising ban, because I believe that the Italian online gaming industry is effectively mature enough to have focused on products before they were forced to do so, meaning that this sort of habit has helped very much the industry stay healthy after such a massive shift like the advertising ban that was passed in 2018 and became blanket covering in 2019. So that's as far as Italy is concerned. Then you mentioned Portugal, you mentioned Germany and Romania. And again, we are only live with one operator in Portugal, we've only live with one operator in Romania, and we're only live with one operator in Germany. And that operator in Germany is a social casino operator. It's predominantly a land-based operator, a retail arcade operator, who has entered the online environment through a social casino model in preparation for further developments. Of course, everything is in preparation for further developments in Germany at the moment because the country is regulating, is a possibly promising market, the German market. At the same time, in my estimation of what the online penetration to the casino market is, it appears to be relatively low as well for a country like Germany. It looks to be around 16%. So we're interested in seeing what's going to happen, and we intend to focus very much onto Germany and penetrate Germany and being at the forefront of the regulatory changes and the new market changes that are happening as we speak and will happen even more in 2021. Portugal and Romania are two slightly more mature markets. Again, very, very promising markets. It's very difficult to tell you what I have found in terms of demographics and in terms of product specifics, considering the fact that we just live with one single operator. So my knowledge of those markets is very limited. But once again, our games are doing really well there. And I think there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of potential with certain verticals in particular. I believe that, for example, our table games have got fantastic potentials in Portugal. And we are seeing a lot of interest in Romania out of the single deal that we have in Romania at the moment. So we're in talks with pretty much all of the operators out there, and we expect the business to be thriving going forward.
Right.
And you were asking me about global operators as well. Yeah, global operators is a slightly different situation, obviously, because global operators effectively are operators that serve lots of markets, and in a way they reflect the way we see ourselves and the way we've become to be as a company. We are a Western company which primarily years ago started targeting new markets, and we've only entered some of our bona fide markets, Western markets, 3 years ago, effectively 3 or 4 years ago. So having offices pretty much everywhere, having experienced the importance of technological localization, which is something that you need to experience, I believe, in order to understand. I mean, one would take it for granted, but effectively I've seen many times in my life circumstances where very knowledgeable entities have sort of, in a way, overlooked that element. Technological localization is very, very important. And being able to offer your content in the best possible way through the best possible infrastructure. And then, of course, cultural elements that you need to understand and respect. I believe that effectively, as we are live in pretty much every single territory that we can be live in, I believe that that partnering with a global entity is a very natural thing for us. We obviously also like to support our partners in sharing our knowledge and sharing our insight into certain markets that they might be interested in. And the other thing that really excites us is the idea of effectively pioneering new markets together with our partners, with our global partners. So some of our global partners are effectively pioneering new regulated markets, and that they entering as much as possible, as soon as possible, effectively, as soon as they regulate. And this is something that really excites us, because I think it's part of the way we see business and we do business. It's part of being a very, very ambitious and very agile company. So what we do is effectively support global partners into entering any new market that they want to enter in, from a compliance perspective and from a product perspective, from a solution perspective. Of course, as you would know, many markets require technological developments around regulatory requirements. And this is something that we have it very easy in doing because our system, as I'm probably boring now, but I keep repeating it, our system is modular and totally scalable. Is at the very core of our tech stack is modularity and scalability, meaning that effectively we can make dramatic changes to what we do with a very simple script and a very simple release, and very quickly. So global partners are very important to us, absolutely, as we see ourselves as a global company.
Okay, well, you just mentioned the global operators maybe wanted to enter a new gaming market. So I was thinking maybe this, if you believe this pandemic scenario could be a driving factor, a powerful driving factor to accelerate the new iGaming markets openings across the worldwide.
Yes, I would like to think so. Although I cannot vouch for politicians and different regulators around the world. I would like to see that. Of course, it's a big opportunity. It would be a very healthy reaction to what's happening in the retail and land-based industry at the moment. And from what I have been able to establish and see, there is definitely being an appetite from many retail and land-based operators whom I have over the years overlooked or not really given enough importance to the online environment. There has been a shift towards online, towards trying to build a strong online operation in provision of, unfortunately, what might be a very negative outlook for retail and land-based operations, unfortunately. So I would like to see that. Yes, I think that is an opportunity. Once again, my trust towards politicians and regulators is limited. I've seen them sometimes actually depress opportunities for very healthy developments in regulated markets with debatable decisions and sometimes misguided or misunderstood attitudes towards the industry. So it would be fantastic to see effectively the business and the regulators and the politicians go hand in hand and creating opportunities for everybody.
Okay, well, we can finish off with final words about what we had an interview last year at Saxe when you said that the psychology, what appeals to players coming from the land base is the mathematics of the game. That psychology is not much affected by societal and technological changes, and that's why Habanero is always delivering traditional slot games and not games like video games. Do you think these new environmental conditions could bring about the change in these concepts that you mentioned last year and eventually in Habanero's approach in terms of strategies or general approach to the market, to the iGaming market?
No, really, no. The idea, what I said really when we told Sags the last time we spoke, is that technology is an important way of enjoying the product, the content, obviously. And it will dictate certain peripherals in the way the content is enjoyed and used. Now, it's the psychology per se that I don't believe is particularly affected by technology on offer, not at this stage in particular. Funnily enough, when we discussed this, I believe that we were discussing the income of millennials into business, which effectively brings interesting questions in regards to new technologies, in regards to using technology or devices that millennials might favor or not. Now, what we are discussing today is a very different thing. In fact, we are discussing the possibility that the current events might bring about a consistent shift from a more traditional type of player base into a more modern environment. At least, that's the general conception, the general idea of things. So when we talk about retail players, land-based players, and the totally online digital environment, we might assume that land-based players and retail players are more traditional compared to online players. And the online environment has so far only appealed to a certain type of more sophisticated type. That's, in my opinion, first of all, this is not true. Second, effectively, the online environment and the online product has always been informed primarily from the retail and the land-based history of this format, of this medium, which is gambling. So all of us suppliers have always, we either come from retail and land-based personally, or we are aware of the history and we look at the history with a lot of interest and with a lot of respect. And in fact, when you look at what happens in most of the creations that are released to this day in the online industry, I haven't really been able to see any important departure from the original models of creating a slot machine, let alone table games. With table games, like I might have mentioned to you last time we spoke, we have seen some really interesting developments when it comes to redefinition of the payouts and the mathematics within a game, with some very, very clever ideas from some suppliers, developers. But generally, the wheel has not been reinvented. So I don't believe at all that what we're seeing at the moment is going to facilitate any radical change in terms of product development. I don't believe at all that Habanero certainly will start chasing areas, verticals of ideas that do not belong to our DNA. Definitely not. In fact, I believe that because of where we come from as a history of each one of us, and what we have been doing over the past 7 years since the company started, and I believe that we are very much ready for this shift towards the online. We have only operated online. We have only operated digitally as a company at Habanero, and we have always been looking forward to the digital environment growing. We always expected the digital environment to grow farther and farther and farther. So I don't really believe that this will change very much. There might be situations where there might be some sort of hybrids with some other forms of entertainment. Let's put it that way. They might or might not involve sportsbook, virtual sportsbooks, RNG, the use of RNG on certain other platforms. But as far as Habanero is concerned, we will keep making games the way we know how to make games. We will keep experimenting with the idea of creating slots, and of course we'll keep creating table games as we have been doing. In fact, table games it's an important part of what of our business. Very often it gets overlooked because effectively we don't release a table game. Nobody does. We release a table game every month. And of course, we are quite limited when it comes to using themes, colors, graphics, and all that. Mathematics, obviously, first and foremost. But our table games are fantastic performance, absolutely fantastic performance. And we have been focusing on making them as mobile friendly as possible, and we've focused on providing a quick, fast seamless and very, very easy experience for the player. We have spent a lot of time making sure that the experience, the thumb experience of the player in portrait and mobile would be as easy and seamless as possible. This obviously has yielded important results. So far from talking about disruption, and once again, I remember using this word and discussing around this word back in the day in Frankfurt. Far from thinking disruption and revolution, we really want to make sure that what we do is absolutely impeccable. And last but not least, what we are focusing on at the moment is to make sure that we respond to some of the requirements that we keep hearing from some of our customers. One of the most frequent words that come around when discussing opportunities and ideas with our customers, the operators, is gamification. Gamification is certainly not something that started today or yesterday, but it is something that indeed seems to be becoming more and more important with the sort of regulatory developments that we're seeing around, which makes effectively the use of bonuses very difficult, and at the same time make acquisition and retention very difficult. So of course, product strategy is absolutely essential for an operator to adapt to this sort of challenge, and gamification definitely, like other types of product announcements, such as, for example, jackpot. Gamification definitely goes towards this objective, and we have been working. We have something very exciting to announce in the pipeline. Something that we will be very happy to announce. Sorry about my dogs; that they always bark when I talk about gamification. This is something that we will be very happy to announce soon enough. We're working hard in order to bring some very important value in terms of acquisition and retention to our suits of games.
Great, we look forward to it. So, well, very clear concepts. Thank you very much for your time today, Arcangelo, and we look forward to speaking again soon, virtually meeting to discuss the iGaming market. Thank you very much.
I really hope we'll be able to meet in person indeed.
I hope so, yeah.
Being that things are changing a little bit around us. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Thank you, Juan. Bye, everybody.
Have a nice day. Bye.
And you. Bye-bye.